morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 444 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah. Boom. Landed it. Today, recording day is Thursday, August 8th, 2024, the 8th of the 8th. And it's going to be a lovely day here at the Beaver Lodge. I am your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, hey. And back with me, because I missed him so much, is my dear friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health doing today, sir?
Much better than yesterday. I didn't sleep at all the night before, which that just spikes the anxiety. And then I had severe depression on top of that. So I was able to get a lot of sleep yesterday during the day and a decent night's sleep last night. Now, yesterday was a complete, total, utter write-off for getting anything done. I literally just slept most of the entire day. I took Lola out a couple of times, of course, but it was like I just had no energy. But last night I went out, saw some friends for a little bit. I was out for about 2 hours and came home and put the TV on, sat down with Lola. I fell asleep, woke up at 12:30. She was already on my bed. So I just climbed in and said, move over, little doggy there. Anyway, yeah, I had a decent night's sleep. I got a fresh pot of coffee. So I'm feeling more like myself. I'm not 100% there, but night and day from yesterday to today. So.
As I was telling the kids, it was interesting because it was not yesterday, but day before, where I had a dip, really bad one, which is highly abnormal for me.
Yeah, that's out of context and character for you.
Completely. And when you're in it, I don't like myself when I'm like that.
No, nobody does.
To begin with, which makes it worse, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm hyper aware. It's not like I'm not.
Self-perpetuating cycle of just awfulness.
Yeah, it's just like, come on, man. Like, get out of this. Why are you being such a...
I can completely relate to Tavi on this one. My dreams last night were completely bizarre.
Yeah.
Like, at one point in the dream, I was at a wedding for some friends, and the bride had been co-opted by this religious cult, the TikTok dancing cult. You may or may not be familiar with this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're light from the inside. And I'm like, I already know somebody in this cult. You're in a cult. You just don't know it yet. Of course, that broke up the wedding. I got sent packing, so I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag in a ditch in a suit next to the highway. And I roll over and there's a fence and there was a big party taking place there next to a hotel. So they invited me in and they said, yeah, we can give you a room. Could you clean up this mess here? I'm like, yeah. So I started and I couldn't get the mess cleaned up. It just didn't seem to want to work. Nothing was working. And I was like, I got to get some sleep. I got to get some sleep. And then Lola woke me up. Yeah. Let's just say there's a reason I don't use psychotropic drugs. My dreams are more bizarre than anything.
Oh, all right, kits and cabs. Oh, the kits have told us that we've reached 5,000 on YouTube.
Yeah, 5,000.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think that calls for a little toast.
Mm-hmm.
Sociable. Yes. Oh, yes, that tastes like success. Yum yum.
Just need more viewers, that's all.
Uh,
But thanks
all
for
right.
subscribing to everybody who did. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, kits and cubs.
Someone get out of focus for some reason.
Yeah, I know. It seems
There
that
you go.
when I move an object or whatnot, it seems to then focus on the object and not be able to come back to me. All right, kits and cubs. There's a lot going on. I guess we should start with the fact that I think for the third time now in a couple of days, someone has been arrested for threats against the prime minister.
I saw the video clip. This person needs help.
Yes, help.
I mean, they've gone down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theory, insanity.
Yeah.
This person needs help.
Yeah, and if you often I recommend in debates, right, to listen to it after the fact with the sound off, to watch a little bit of it, so you can see the body language and stuff, because you can tell a lot. If you listen to it with the sound off, you can tell just by his eyes.
Oh yeah.
That something is not right. Now, according to the Associated Press, it says here, Canadian police have arrested a man after he allegedly made threats against Prime Minister Justin Trudeau online. Police say the man made violent threats against Trudeau, the police and security personnel who might attempt to interfere with his plans in an online video. RCMP made the arrest with the help of the York Regional Police in Ontario. I'm not going to say his name. Gentleman, 33, of no fixed address, is facing 2 counts of uttering threats. Quote, threats to our national security can come in many forms and Canada is not immune, the RCMP said in a press release Wednesday. We are aware of the heightened security environment for public officials and the danger this presents for all Canadians. Our number one priority has been, will always be, the safety and security of Canadians. The arrest comes weeks after 2 Alberta men were charged after they allegedly directed death threats at the Prime Minister, and I believe some were also directed at Chrystia Freeland and at Jagmeet Singh, if I'm not mistaken, in those ones. RCMP said in July that the men posted threats to kill Trudeau and other politicians on X and YouTube. Now, there is a person online who did some digging and found out more about this person. And it was a really interesting look into how someone goes down that rabbit hole and sort of who they were before. And I'm finding it really interesting that this is now the second time that it's a citizen who's doing the work. So when it came for the Pierre's bot farm, it was an account on Twitter who's a person from the disability community, who now that the story is starting to be picked up by media, but it's not being picked up English language media, at least more mainstream media, because of the story itself, but because they denied it. So it's the denial of the bot farms that has provoked some coverage in more mainstream news rather than the fact that they actually existed and were used in the first place. So in other words, the underground, right, Sudbury.com, National Observer, um, other papers that it appeared in, smaller papers like that, created enough of a groundswell of buzz that the party had to take a position on denying it or whatnot. And that finally the mainstream media said, oh, well, I guess now we have to cover it. The initial story should have been covered in this case. Well, this is another, like I said, an instance of a gentleman who decided to take a look because he's sitting there and he's thinking, how does this happen? Why is this happening? Why is it happening to these people? You know, what's going on? And for some reason, I have been searching for this thing and I cannot seem to find it. Even though I had specifically made a point to bookmark it because I knew I wanted to open with this today. Very strange. I hope it hasn't disappeared because it was very good. Darn.
Well, I have something in relationship to all of this that...
Then please do, and I will try to find it in the meantime, yes.
My mouse is acting very weird right now. I don't know what's going on with it, but it doesn't seem to want to respond properly. But I do want to show you this tweet. This is from Holly Doan, and reserve your opinions, folks. I'm just reporting fact. Canada is slowly losing our democracy due to mean tweets and clickbait media, says MP. I close my constituency office because I fear for my safety. Anita Vandenbeld. Now let's just scroll down and look at some of these replies. From the Rational Post, I close my constituency office because I fear for my safety, because she's doing undemocratic things and her democracy is calling her on it, so she doesn't want to hear from a democracy. Got it. Gee, she should try being a Canadian Jew for a day. Maybe she should resign and let someone else with a stomach for the job take the role. Okay, Alex, short answers for 200. What is do the job you're elected for and properly represent your neighbor's constituents? Pretty basic. How about, gosh, I wonder what's making my constituents so angry. What an absolute hypocrite. I have zero... What the hell is going on? Like, this is completely unhinged behavior. People are literally chastising a woman who closed her office because she's afraid for her safety, and they come in and attack her in this. And the responses, they just get worse and worse and worse. It's horrible. And how is this coming out? What is this all about? Oh, I think I know. Rage farming from the cons, who are spewing daily lies. This is what happens. Maybe they'll shut up when somebody gets hurt.
Probably not.
Somehow I doubt it.
Yeah. I found it. And we'll continue on the Anita Vandenbeld thing as well, because I've got something on that, because that article, if you read it, very interesting. But here, Kurt Phillips at ARC Collective on Twitter. By now, I'm guessing that most of my Twitter followers are aware of the most recent threats against Trudeau and the subsequent of a suspect. I think there's an even more important story, though, related to the poisonous influence of social media. David Zalewski, oops, darn, I didn't want to mention his name. Crap. I apologize. My mouth went faster than my brain. Was arrested for making death threats against the Prime Minister. The following video was posted to his second Facebook profile. Be warned that it may be triggering as it promotes graphic violence against the PM and others. And here, Mr. Grizzly, since I said the name, when I mentioned about looking with the sound off, this is what I mean.
Just blow it up there if you could. Oh, no. Go to the video. Go to the actual. Hover over the video, up a little higher. Yeah, see the, yeah, there you go. There you go.
That's why I didn't want to do that. I didn't want the audio.
Well, there is no audio. We don't hear it. We're
Okay.
not hearing anything.
I've got audio going on right now.
There's none here.
So you really don't want to hear. Okay.
He's completely unhinged, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, if you're the type of person who wants to know what it is that you're dealing with, then you probably do want to hear. But if you're just the type of person that needs to know that it's bad, that's good enough for you, you don't need to hear. Let me just put that type of disclaimer on it, and so you can consume, leaving you the option to consume what you want according to what you're comfortable with. But if you just need to know that somebody made threats and that's enough for you, I don't think your life will be any way improved from listening to it. Zalewski is clearly not well, but I think it would be wrong to dismissively call him crazy. Move on without further examination. There is a reason why he got to this point, and I believe we can learn a great deal from his social media footprint. And I think that this is what he said here is very, very important, because often when this happens, particularly because now in 2024, we play the game of when somebody makes a threat or when somebody does something, whose side is he on first, like this. And then when the person whose side he's not on they go, see, and then the person whose side he's on says, oh, well, he was mentally unstable. He had mental health problems. She had mental health problems. And that makes it such that we can, it's one of those statistical anomalies and everything's fine and we can just go back to rebuilding or whatever, life as usual. Let's assume, as Kurt does, that it's not a case of someone who's he just has mental problems and there's nothing more to it. We can move on. Let's take a look. Let's humor this.
Mm-hmm.
I noted that the video is from his second Facebook profile that he created on September 25th, 2023, but we will start with his first profile that he posted to April 3rd, 2023, but which he created at least as far back as 2010. For the most part of the time between 2010 and 2019, there was nothing to especially distinguish his profile from anyone else his age. He posted about video games, funny video clips, music. In fact, music was especially important to him as he appears to be a decent pianist. And, again, just an image. Oh. Everyday Canadian sharing everyday Facebook content. I learned a new piece. This is what I ate for dinner. Here's me with my kids. Fun time at the cottage.
Yeah.
Right? Not the political stuff, the stuff that Facebook was sort of created for us to be able to keep touch and network with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Old friends from high school, family that lives far away. What you up to? Right? Normal content. Yes. Between 2010 and 2019, 9 years of no content whatsoever that would distinguish him from, especially make him stand out from any other person, just like most of us on Facebook. This would change, however, once the COVID pandemic occurred. Zalewski likely found himself inside much more and more isolated as a result, and like many of us, he appears to have spent more time online as a result. At this point, it's probably clear where this is going. I noticed the most significant changes in 2020 as Zalewski began to post about COVID and the growing conspiracies about the virus. And then there are various screen caps of, someone with a mask that says, help, 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 be glad you don't live here, Jordan Peterson, and stuff like that. It didn't take long for the algorithms on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, to start providing him with the other content based on his search history that continued to push him deep down that rabbit hole. By early 2022, he had come to believe that COVID restrictions were part of a larger plot to take away freedoms. As such, when the Ottawa occupation began, he was present. And with the occupation in Ottawa, he was exposed to other conspiracy influencers and members of the far right, among them Benny Johnson, Pat King, Kellyanne Farkas, Wolf, in parentheses, and Alex Vriend. And then there's more screen caps of them starting to promote their content.
Yeah, Alex Vriend is the ferryman's toll. He's the guy who filmed me in Ottawa at the convoy.
Oh,
He's a particularly nasty fucking Nazi piece of shit. And I'm not being blunt. He is a straight up hateful, racist Nazi. He said as much. He's had actual Nazis on his show talking about the stupid white replacement theory, which is beyond ridiculous, amongst other things. That man needs therapy more than I do.
Also perhaps influencing Zalewski were media such as Rebel News and Fox News, which did little to tap down the conspiracies and disinformation that permeated online, and then a whole bunch of screen caps from Rebel and Fox. While we might expect political leaders to behave in a responsible manner, those of us who remember Pierre Poilievre and some other members of the Conservative Party instead appeared to fan the flames to agitate people like Zalewski even more. And then there's a whole bunch of content on his page with Pierre featured. So he became a Poilievre fan somewhere along the way. Zalewski would later post a link to his profile to the Conservative Party for any who might wish to make a donation. As a result of his participation in the Ottawa occupation, he would find himself in legal peril. Then there's a whole thing, whole link to a thread from the Court Cat. This one. It was after the Ottawa occupation that Zalewski really appears to have sunk so much deeper into the conspiracy rabbit hole as he began to parrot conspiracies about the WEF and claims that we are all, in fact, apparently cannibals. But it probably wasn't until Zalewski created a second Facebook profile that we can really see the toll his journey down the rabbit hole had taken on him, exhibiting what exhibiting what looks to my uneducated eye as a deep depression. His posts had become nihilistic and misanthropic. And then there are screen caps of things that he wrote. Then again, might be tough to read. Actually, there are three things of screen caps of things, including, let's say, an image. So remember the image of him sitting at the piano? How innocent that looked like? We went from posting that to posting stuff like this.
Can't quite read that. Hang on, let me see if I blow it up in my head.
There
are no innocent in this life. All are guilty. The darkness knows all of your secrets. We are coming like the eternal night that obscures all. We are the obscure. You will know my nightmares, our nightmares. You will come to know the foundations that hold your pathetic dreams and fantasies together. You will know the foundations of souls. Many of you will break and wither instantly. Many of you will go mad for years. Many of you will lose your identities and principles. You will be cast astray by the true divine darkness. Okay, this guy needs help. Like, serious help. That is not normal behavior. And it's not like he's trying to write a novella or a short story along those lines. This is something he truly believes.
Yeah. He appears to have come under the influence of other right-wing and far-right influencers, both mainstream and fringe. And again, kits and cubs, for your confirming that which we already knew. It's Grizzly. Who's this?
Oh, that's
Rupa Subramanya.
Thank you. I knew it was. I just couldn't come up with her name.
And then who's this?
Jordan Peterson.
And then who's this?
Oh, that was the guy who somehow got on the Hill and had a press conference.
Yeah, Neil shared in the press room that's not for the politicians, but for community groups and whatnot, if they have a political message. The one that we could go to next year, for example, if we wanted to promote the mental health walk.
Mm-hmm.
And then Northern Perspective.
Yeah, this is rage farming of the worst kind. And look, it's destroyed a man's life.
Yep. And then there's more. Hitler's shocking origin story, why social justice means genocide. The Conservative Party also looks like it played a role in Zalewski's descent into paranoia, as it considered to encourage a climate of fear and distrust. And now we've got these, Mr. Grizzly, type of content that he shared.
Mm-hmm. Polyev explains that when Trudeau found out about the Winnipeg lab breach, he tried to hide it. Scientists at our top biolab trying to send secrets to China, and instead of being honest with Canadians, Justin Trudeau tried to cover it up.
Or
Cooper reveals Trudeau's foreign ties. Interested in Canadian politics? This channel is for you. Pierre Poilievre is the leader of the Conservative Party. He's the opposition leader. Debating, I guess. Beijing interfered in our elections. And remember when Trudeau said he admired the basic communist dictatorship? I do. I remember very clearly. So we're a vassal state to China. Why hasn't the U.S. intel agencies caught up on this? Or are they complicit in this too? The guy's he's unhinged. He needs help.
But these are the people.
Mm-hmm.
The Conservative, though this is the wolf the Conservative Party is feeding.
Getting asked a question here, and I've never. You ever watched a full episode of Northern Perspective? Even until today, I'd never heard of Northern Perspective.
Similar.
I'd never heard of it until just now. So no, I've never watched an episode. I didn't know it existed before this moment.
Yeah, not.
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, not just now, because did look a little bit yesterday, but it's like if you just go to their website, you check them out. Is NDP plotting to frame Conservatives for cheating? Plotting to frame. I mean, they're. Come on, man. Another Northern. It's like you go to the About section. We aim to provide genuine
subscribers, so that's a little bit disturbing.
Yeah. We aim to provide genuine, truthful commentary on events impacting Canadian society. Our goal is to inform Canadians and dismantle the barriers that prevent citizens from understanding their government. Our channel is dedicated to discussing the Canadian political spectrum and the consequences that radical leftist promoted legislation have had on society.
What radical?
We provide links to our sources so that you, the viewer, can review the information we present, evaluate it, and form your own opinion on the subject. So yes, we allow you. And on this channel, primary topics to expect: government corruption, election interference, Arrive Can scandal, Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, Justin Trudeau, other scams in Canada.
Well, I've never heard of them prior to today, but I'll look at
it's your daily dose of hate.
Yeah, it sounds like it's hateful, outrageous. Well, look, we've talked about this before. If we decided to go down the haterade train, we would probably have 100,000 subscribers by now and be making a very good living at this.
Yeah.
We're not going to do that. Yes, we want to get paid for this. That's never been a secret. We've been upfront about that since day one. We want to get paid for our efforts. But facts first, truth always, period. It doesn't matter what the political stripe is. You do something wrong, we're calling you out for it, and we're going to highlight it. Every single time.
And you do something right, you're going to get the credit.
Exactly.
And we don't believe they're all the same.
No.
Because that's just cynical, and that's just a way to stop thinking.
Yeah.
There's no difference between them. They're all the same. Yeah, that's turn your brain off and just run, allow yourself to be fed. They're not all the same.
No.
They're not all the same. Yes. And eyes wide open, there's a certain grease tax that happens in all politics. So, it's like we're judging options against each other. Once again, not against the Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
And then the tweet thread goes, and Zalewski seems to have believed all of this. It wasn't really until July of this year that he crossed the line from paranoid rhetoric to calls for violence against perceived enemies. So it's a slow descent. Mm-hmm. On July 19th, slow descent. It's still relatively rapid.
Oh, yes.
But it's not all in one. It's not like the radicalization process isn't like you were normal one day and then with the next day, let's go kill someone and you're frothing out the mouth. It slowly happens. Yeah, exactly, Miss Shadika. Noticing a huge trend with these right-wing groups. They're getting louder and angrier, and they're inserting themselves in even things they never gave a fuck about before. They're so dangerous. Yes, exactly. If there is a protest of any kind,
They're there.
they will show up.
Yeah. It's disturbing.
Because if there's an event, a celebration of any kind, they will show up. To try to, it's always about making it about their thing. Whether it's the extreme right, it's the extreme left. When they show up, it's like, we respect nothing, we respect no one, and all of you have to stop to make your lives about our thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, so this
I just want to finish with the Kurt's thread before we
yeah,
move to something
yeah,
else.
no, I wasn't moving. I was sticking on it.
Okay. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
It's these folks go incognito and come across as kind and thoughtful with
Yes.
topics they know older folks will cling to, like humane, for example.
Yes.
Now, I have to make a comment about that exactly. At my Scotch and Cigar Club last night, one of my friends was adamant that Humane is a man. I'm like, dude, she's not a man. He goes, yes, she is. They did DNA tests, the IBA. I go,
No.
the IBA has never said what kind of tests they did.
Never said.
They never said
that.
They won't reveal it. He goes, yes, they did. I go, no, they didn't.
No.
And everybody else that was there was like, dude, you're wrong. Like, that's never been released. The IBA is the most corrupt sporting body on earth. And they're good. IOC booted them. That tells you how corrupt
Yes, the IBA is too corrupt for the International Olympic Committee.
Yeah. Like,
just like the AFD was too right-wing extremists for the right-wing coalition in the European Parliament.
So,
and it was only after a Russian boxer was defeated.
Yes, that this suddenly happened. Yes, and you can ask the 9 other women that have beat her, including the Irish woman who beat her for the world title in 2022.
It's like the 2 people that they are saying are men have a total of 7 knockouts in their entire career.
Yeah, combined, right?
Combined. It's like, tut. Fortunately, Imani is fighting for the gold medal, and I am cheering for Algeria.
You know what?
Yeah. She, with all of this going on, she managed to get to that final match.
This
is what we wanted the Canadian soccer team to do, right?
Yeah.
We wanted the soccer team to do with all the struggles and the weight that was put on them.
Well, they came close. They came as close as they could.
No, they did. But like the ideal Disney storyline would be going all the way, right?
Yes.
Like this, and so like this. Well, she's doing it. She's gone all the way. One last fight.
Yeah.
So go get yours, girl. Go get yours. Kurt Phillips. On July 19th, on the same day, he posted the clip found on the second tweet of his thread. He began a march to Parliament Hill where he seems convinced he would be joined by 10,000 other Canadians who would then eliminate the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's happening, and we're seeing this in England too. We got some images. But everyone supports us. And then you get all that bot feedback, whatnot.
No, we don't.
And then you show up on the street and you see how many people are going, no, we fucking don't.
Yeah. Well, did you see, I posted something yesterday about, I think, I'll say it was in Liverpool. I could be wrong about where it was. 9 hate-filled racist piles of human fecal matter showed up to protest.
Yep.
And the entire town or city came out. It wasn't Liverpool. I forget where it was. There were tens of thousands of people. The police had to surround the haters for fear that they might get harmed.
Yep. I have to, that's the thing, that's the image I have that I will show when we get to that one.
Okay, good.
So, and somebody actually, like, we see the general image, but somebody did the image where they, like, circled for everyone, and where the, like, so you can really see it. It is something. He would post a final message on Twitter on July 21st. However, he also posted a video clip just before on the same day. In the video, as he continues his march to Ottawa, he rails against immigrants despite himself being an immigrant, claiming to be one of the few people left in the country who is capable of speaking English. In an earlier video, he continues to echo conspiratorial rhetoric, Soviet ideas, 15-minute cities, anti-immigrant, etc. David did not start out like this. It seems clear that he was created.
Yeah.
That is the most powerful line in the thread.
Clearly, he was created.
And he isn't the only one. Sadly, I think all of us know someone, a friend or family member, who have gone down the same rabbit holes. So what do we do about it? There aren't any simple answers, but I think there are a few things we can do. First, challenge those conspiracies. Don't be silent. And then David links to a guide created by the Canadian Anti-Hate Network that's called 40 Ways to Fight the Far-Right Tactics for Community Activists in Canada. I'm always a little iffy on the Canadian Anti-Hate Network.
Yeah.
But also got to give credit where it's due. There is some very, very good stuff in this document.
And I think there's some good people that are part of the organization.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So like, I'm not one of these people that are going to broad brush because one or two people associated with
Right.
that type of stuff.
And we don't want to do that, because when you paint everybody with the same brush, that's totally unfair and completely wrong.
But it's 2024, and people jump as soon as you say something. So just putting like this. Yes, there are legitimate issues with certain people who claim to speak in that organization's name. But in terms of this type of resource, there are some things like this, if you're on the more activist side, that can be useful, so long as you do them within the bounds of the law.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Nothing wrong with activism. We need it. We need activism and advocates. But you got to keep your activities within the bounds of the law. Remember, you're not persecuted for what you think. You're persecuted for what you say and do in furtherance of what you think. Right? Second, political leaders have to be more responsible. They have to tone down the rhetoric that may get people hurt. They have to be willing to face criticism from those whose votes they want. In short, leaders need to lead. I don't know why Pierre Poilievre claimed to not know who the DAGs were and instead attacked the question and claimed the government were the real extremists. Is attacking the media reflexive? Is he afraid to alienate potential voters? Who knows? What I do know is that a person who may be the leader of the country one day should show a modicum of courage in denouncing them. Courage seems to be in short supply, though. That was a thread from Kurt Phillips, looking at, wanting to stop and say, I could just say, he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And move on with my day. Oh, well, they got another crazy one. Or I can say, was he always like this? When did this happen? We need to start asking these questions.
Linda's comment here is bang on the money, and you're
Yes.
absolutely right, Linda. Once upon a time, activist groups policed their own.
Yes.
And we didn't let it get that far, because we didn't let those types of extreme people stay as part of us.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
There are some people you don't want on your team.
Well, and I'll give you a for instance of something that policed its own quite recently. And the whole thing that they're doing is tongue-in-cheek to piss off the religious right. It's the folks who, I forget which state it was, at the State House, the legislature, they put the 10 Commandments on the state legislature lawn. So these guys said, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to do this. So they put up a statue of Baphomet. Baphomet being Lucifer, Satan, the representation thereof, with a child at each knee. And they, of course, the religious right lost their mind. You can't do that. You can't do that. And he said, well, you can't do that. So if we can't do this, you can't do that. They both have to come down. So they left it up. What happened was they called these, I said, they're not part of the Church of Satan, but they're something else. And they always end everything with Hail Satan, right?
Right.
It's always tongue in cheek. Well, there were people within that group that got too extreme for the management and organization thereof, and it's loosely organized. And they said, no, we're booting them out, because these people have gone way off the rails. Yeah. We're talking about burning places down.
This is supposed to be tongue in cheek. You guys are taking this for real.
Yeah, like it's the Church of Satan. Yeah, they're not actual Satanists. These people. They're literally just shoving it in the face of the religious right, who is trying to force their religion on other people. They're like, well, you can't do that. If you get to do that, we get to do this. And I watched the documentary on it, and it's really entertaining. And the head of this organization is a very smart man. and he surrounded himself with smart people, and a lot of people volunteered. And like I said, some of them got way off the rails and started to destroy things. And he said, "Nope, that's it. You're out. You're gone. We want nothing to do with you." So I just thought that was interesting how when you have and they're more libertarian than anything else.
Hmm.
But they do believe in law and order because they don't want to see people harmed.
Right.
They're live and let live. So,
Right.
yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm going to grab another cup of coffee,
yeah.
sir. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that, Mr. Grizzly, because there definitely is a difference between like anarchy, libertarians, and live and let live. It's like some people just, you know, I do agree with libertarians in the sense that some people just don't mind their own damn business enough. Unfortunately, there are also times when people shouldn't be minding their own damn business where people choose to stay quiet. Just as bad. Too much is just as bad as not enough.
Agreed.
All right. Moving to what you had mentioned, because you had brought up Anita Vandenbelt. This goes back to the status of women committee, and they're still trying to milk that fake feminist thing. The two of the witnesses that had that had showed up have said more about it online on social media. Alexandra Kate, I believe it is, and Megan Walker.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that they have to say would not dispel doubts from Canadians who might suspect that they were chosen by the Conservative Party for a specific reason other than just their story.
Right.
One of them, Megan Walker, seems to be way more pro-conservative than Alexandra Kate. So with the Kates and even the family, there seems to be some blame to go around, all around.
That's not
but it seems that she also, from what we heard, lives in Los Angeles. And it seems that like about 2 days before the meeting was when she bought her plane ticket to come down. And she was added to the witness list only about an hour before the meeting.
Mm.
So they made arrangements 2 days before to bring somebody in from California to speak from that. Now, I don't know if it's a Canadian citizen who's living in California. I would assume.
No idea.
But I do not know who paid for that, because last minute tickets for a few people from LA to Ottawa would probably be rather expensive, and then the meeting devolved. So I'm sure hope that the Conservative Party of Canada, I mean, this is a weird thing because either the Conservative Party of Canada had someone who was a survivor of intimate partner violence drop over, I would say, she came with her kids, according to what I can hear. So maybe plane ticket for 3 people, last minute, LA, I don't know. That's a lot of money. Only to have the meeting go poof for a stunt, which would seem to be a rather cruel thing to do to someone. Or the Conservative Party of Canada paid for her travel.
Well,
and then the question becomes, did the Conservative Party of Canada pay for the travel? Or did the people of Canada pay for the travel through the committee budget to have them come? And let's be honest, even if they took it from the Conservative Party of Canada funds, if it came from political donations, those get a very generous tax credit, so you still paid for that somehow. But there's a question there if somebody wanted to dig, and I'm sure that what comes out of it doesn't make the Conservatives look good one way or the other on that. But it seems that criticism of Anita Vandenbeld for having tried to change the subject of the meeting Now, that comes with the caveat that when a committee usually reconvenes, it reconvenes from where it left off. So wanting just to say this process is not okay, and then proposing that we change something, and then let's discuss abortion. It wasn't, oh, let's discuss abortion because that way we're going to get you back. No, that literally was where they left off. And so there was no conspiracy in terms of that selection of the subject. That's just the way the committees work. But it was still pretty crass to suggest changing the subject of the meeting, given people that were coming to share very personal and traumatic information had traveled all that way and were there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which was part of the trap that was set.
Oh, yes.
And part of the stupidity of the other parties to have taken the bait on that. And then she wouldn't apologize unreservedly, which is like, why? Because as politicians are, often, they were still in the, but I did nothing wrong. The Conservatives did something wrong. They're the ones that called this meeting the wrong way. It was like this. I raised the point of order. As should be done under Robertson's Rules of Orders. Like this according to, yeah, but it was tone deaf. It was tone deaf. As I mentioned before, this was not a meeting about tax policy where you can bicker that in front of a witness, whatnot, like doesn't resolve that if you want to. These were people that were coming to share some traumatic information and were probably like emotionally in a state knowing what it is that they're going to have to do today. Right? Not the time, not the place, not the audience. You take that shit in camera if you got to discuss that. Right? But you don't do that in front of the witnesses. And you don't you don't sit there to let them know that you would like to change the subject, please. Right? But it's just, come on, man. But here we go. She wrote something herself that got published. It's called The Hijacking of Canadian Democracy, and it is worth a read. In recent years, there has been much lamenting in progressive circles about how right-wing populism is threatening our democracy, undermining our institutions, and creating division, and much scratching of heads about why populist leaders have gained such appeal among the public despite their unapologetic disdain for the norms and processes of pluralistic and open democratic societies. The return to authoritarianism in countries around the world, increasing coups and crackdowns against civil society, human rights defenders, media freedom, and rule of law is part of a larger global phenomenon. Authoritarian countries are spreading disinformation, interfering in democratic elections, and populating social media to polarize discourse and undermine the fabric of democratic societies. Rage farming and emotion replace thoughtful debate, and violent rhetoric has become normalized in politics, with real-life consequences. Incidences of political intimidation and violence increase, and those who call out the reasons for it are attacked for being divisive, and so they remain silent. And in that silence, we are slowly losing our democracy. I will be silent no more. I have been an elected member of parliament for almost 9 years, but before that, I worked around the world as a specialist on inclusive political participation. I worked with the Global Program for Parliamentary Strengthening in the Democratic Governance Group at the UNDP. I was an advisor to parliaments in Bosnia, Kosovo, and Bangladesh. I managed a global network to connect women in politics and open up democratic processes to be more inclusive of women and other excluded groups, and ran a program to facilitate inter-party dialogue in the Democratic Republic of Congo. In short, my whole life has been dedicated to making democracies work better for everyone by ensuring processes that amplify voices, especially those of women. I ran for office specifically to ensure that the voices of women and other excluded groups would be heard in our parliament. I was chair of the All-Party Women's Caucus, and I founded an All-Party Democracy Caucus to work across party lines to improve how our parliament functions. But this week, I closed my constituency office because I fear for my safety and that of my staff. Headlines in mainstream media about me scream, quote, abuse survivor demands Liberals apologize after abuse survivor demands Liberal MP apologize after testimony hijacked in chaotic House committee, and, quote, witnesses storm out of House committee in tears decrying Liberal politicization. Social media posts include comments like, quote, it sounds like Anita had to get assaulted viciously to take this issue more seriously. Quote, Look at this fat piece of shit, someone put her out of her misery. Quote, I guess these women would change their mind if it happened to them or someone they love. And worse, my car license plate was posted online. How did we get to this point? I believe that what has happened in recent months in the Status of Women Committee is a case study in how our parliamentary institutions are being deliberately dismantled, and those who defend them or call it out are being targeted, attacked, silenced, and intimidated into leaving political office. The traps that are being set by the far right, their willingness to use anyone's pain to achieve political ends, and a capitulation by the media to clickbait have made it impossible to protect and defend parliamentary processes or basic fairness. I have been on the House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women for a majority of my time in Parliament. Up until last April, the committee had been chaired for 7 years by Conservative MP Karen Vecchio. This committee is always chaired by a member of the official opposition. During her time as chair, the committee published 45 reports, most of them by consensus. This is far more than any other committee. Members of the committee worked collaboratively across party lines. There was respect and even friendship between the members of different parties. The committee was living proof that Parliament can function well and bring in voices of marginalized Canadians who have otherwise not been heard in the House of Power. So what happened? In 2022, with the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the United States, many Canadian women woke up to the reality that women's fundamental right to autonomy over their own body could not be taken for granted. It was a profoundly jarring moment for many of us, including several members of the committee. A Liberal member put forward a motion to reaffirm women's right to choose in Canada. The same thing happened in other committees like the Foreign Affairs Committee, where Conservative MPs filibustered the motion for months, delaying all other committee business. But not in the Status of Women Committee. The chair, Karen Vecchio, made an impassioned plea during the committee meeting that such a motion would only put her and other pro-choice Conservative women in a difficult position, and committee members agreed, for the sake of the unity and effectiveness of the committee and out of respect for one another, to adjourn debate on the motion. After the meeting, members across parties even hugged one another, recognizing how deeply we all felt about this issue, but we determined that it would not change the collegiality and respect that we have always had for one another. But in that moment were the seeds of the downfall for our committee. Not only did Ms. Vecchio use her calm, fair, and firm leadership style to forestall a divisive debate over abortion, but she also pushed back when members from her own party tried to use tactics like ambush motions to drive wedge issues or embarrass other members. Normal parliamentary practice in Canada is that there is a Committee on Agenda and Procedure, or steering committee, made up of the chair and vice chairs from the other parties that meets in camera, behind closed doors, to work out what studies the committee will work on next and any other issues to do with the committee business. This is the committee, the subcommittee of the committee, that I say that discussion should have been brought to, rather than having it out in the open. Normally, all members of the committee will put forward motions regarding what to study, and the steering committee will discuss these motions and come to a consensus on a calendar based on many factors, including the urgency of the issue and fairness between parties. In all my years, both working in Parliament and as an MP, until this week, I have never seen a chair call a meeting and invite witnesses without first consulting the members of the steering committee. An ambush motion is when a member of the committee, knowing that the steering committee has already come to a consensus on what to study next, waits until the committee is in public and televised, usually during witness testimony, and uses their time to move a motion with the sole purpose of forcing the other parties to say no in public in order to embarrass them. Recently, Conservative MPs have made an art of moving such motions and then taking the footage of whichever MP moves to adjourn debate, and then they put out sensational videos on social media designed to create outrage against that member and their party. Whenever this has happened to me, the online and physical threats against me increased exponentially. It is as though when a Conservative MP posts these rage-farming tweets, they are pointing their followers, including some who are prone to violence, towards their next target. When Ms. Vecchio was the chair, she was very effective at shutting down these kinds of tactics from her own party members, and she was punished for it. Following Trump's playbook, since becoming Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre has put out a narrative that Parliament is broken and the institutions are rigged. The Status of Women Committee was living proof that this narrative was not true, and so Poilievre had to destroy it. Last April, with no warning, Poilievre removed the chair, Karen Vecchio, from the Status of Women Committee, likely because she was too effective. Members of the committee from all parties except the Conservatives publicly decried this move and speculated that the new chair, Shelby Cramp Newman, sorry, that was a Freudian. That was not intentional. Would be under pressure to do the building of our party leadership instead of acting in the interest of the committee and Canadian women. or face the same consequences as Miss Vecchio. We all implored her to maintain the fairness and respect that Miss Vecchio had shown, and if so, we would do the same. For a while, she did that. Last week, that all changed. The leadership of the Conservative Party has apparently instructed all Conservative committee chairs to unilaterally call at least 5 committee meetings over the summer recess on topics to embarrass the government. Last week, Ms. Cramp Newman issued a notice of meeting unilaterally with no consultation with any members of the steering committee or other parties. The common practice in committees is that when a meeting is called with witnesses, each party is given the opportunity to submit names and they are invited based on the number of members from each party on the committee to ensure a balanced panel that represents all voices. Since Canada follows the Westminster system of parliament, the majority of our rules are unwritten, based on precedent. So if practices are changed, new precedents are established and rules can change. Therefore, if a committee chair or multiple chairs openly flout the established practices and procedures, it can have long-term consequences for the fairness of our democracy. It is therefore vital that these kinds of breaches of the rules be called out and stopped. Last week, the chair not only called a meeting on intimate partner violence unilaterally with only a few days' notice, but she also invited only witnesses to testify that were proposed by Conservative Party members, denying other parties the right to submit names. One of the witnesses, a survivor of intimate partner violence, said she flew from California to attend the meeting, but her name was only added to the meeting agenda 1 hour before the meeting began. During the meeting, many parliamentary rules were broken, including allowing witnesses to show props, in this case photos, allowing private video footage to be taken while the meeting was in session, not ensuring that members could speak in the order in which they put up their hands, not overruling points of order that were unrelated to procedural issues, allowing yelling and disruption in the room, and more. This kind of chaos is, in my view, part of a larger strategy of discrediting our institutions in the eyes of the public. Members are left in the difficult position of either allowing the rules to be broken or calling it out and being vilified and gaslit through a very effective conservative communications war machine that uses emotions to manipulate. Now, this particular thing that she's mentioning in this paragraph is why people who are defending her and defending the members on the committee who are not conservatives saying, watch the video, watch the video, watch the video. Yes, because the conservatives are behaving abhorrently. But again, the fact that the conservatives are behaving abhorrently does not magically erase the fact that the other MPs took the bait.
Right.
Doesn't matter how awful the conservatives are. The conservatives were awful. That's established. We can settle that. The question is, did the other MPs handle it well in the moment? And they didn't. Right? One does not magically erase the other. But this is all the shit that the conservatives pulled. Like, they didn't just put like one worm on the bait hook.
Mm-hmm.
They had like bait hooks all over the place. It's like, oh, really? No. Oh, no, we're not. No, we're not going to take your questions in the order you put your hands up. Oh, there's a point of order on something that's unrelated. Well, hey, let's waste some time and entertain that. Yelling and screaming? No, we won't call for order. Right? This is clearly a setup. Knowing that the conservatives would put forward an ambush motion of some kind during the meeting, which they tried to do, and that we could not allow a precedent for the chair to repeat this flagrant breach of procedure in the future, Liberal and NDP members were left with no choice but to put forward our own motion first. In other words, they engaged in, we know you're going to do this, so we're going to get you before you get us. Which again, not putting the survivors first. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. In this case, choosing to resume debate on the abortion motion that we had adjourned 2 years ago before out of collegiality. But after the committee voted to start debate on the motion, the Conservatives used every possible delay tactic to make sure the substance of the abortion motion did not come to a vote, and as a consequence, we could not return to the witness testimony. What we underestimated was that there was no bottom to the level to which the Conservative members were willing to go. The Conservatives knew that we would have to find a procedural way to call out their blatant flouting of the rules and norms of parliamentary democracy, or otherwise live with a committee that would be completely dysfunctional going forward. And that's how you know it was a setup. Because they said, let's do it this way. That way, they'll have to do this, and then we can take that and do this with it. It was a setup. For context, imagine if a judge were to call a last-minute trial and only allow the prosecutor to call witnesses to testify and then not share those witness names with the defense until 1 hour before the trial. This break with parliamentary practice was seemingly egregious. The Conservatives knew that we would have no choice but to do something to not allow such a meeting to go ahead, and yet they invited witnesses who had been victimized and traumatized to testify, using their pain and trauma to put us in a corner. It was a trap. And as I said in the media, I deeply regret that it was the witnesses who suffered for it. It broke my heart to see what was once a safe and victim-centric committee cause such distress to the witnesses and their families. In my focus on trying to save our committee from the same dysfunction and partisanship that has plagued other committees, I played a role in adding to their trauma, and for that I am very sorry. Nothing that happened in that meeting should ever have happened. And that's what we said on day one.
Yeah.
She finally got there.
Took a little while.
Took a little while. But you know what? As we say on the show, we don't care when you arrive, so long as you get here.
Very true.
Canadians need to understand the significant shift that has taken place in our politics in recent years. It is no longer about debating issues and policies. It is about undermining the very institutions that allow for that debate to occur. It is no longer about collegial disagreements between honorable members, but about destroying the other person, their reputation, their sense of security, their family, and their willingness to continue in public life. I know that by writing this, I will face even more attacks, but I believe in my heart that Canadians care, that they care about our democracy and about our decency, that they care about living in a world where fairness and equality and the rights of everyone are respected. Nobody wants to live in a world where might makes right. As I write this, as a result of the media and social media coverage of this meeting, I am receiving email, phone, and social media comments that have my staff afraid to go into the office and my family members looking over their shoulders. This kind of tactic is in effect a form of political intimidation. Just recently, the former Liberal Vice Chair of the Status of Women Committee, Pam Damoff, announced that she would not run again in large part because of the toxic environment and threats to her own safety. The former Chair, Karen Vecchio, announced this week that she will not run again. But what happened in the Status of Women Committee is not an isolated incident. It is not the only committee where this is happening. It's not even the only parliament where this is happening. It is also not accidental. This is part of a much larger global rise in authoritarian, anti-democratic, misogynist movements that are undermining democracies everywhere. There is a reason that we have a constitution, a rules-based international order, and democracy. Canada used to be somewhat insulated from anti-democratic and authoritarian threats because of our geography. Today, these forces and movements can get right into our children's phones. They can get into our parliament. They can get into our heads. So the next time you see a headline like, quote, Liberal MP accused of derailing committee as witness demands apology, take some time to watch the whole meeting. Pay attention to politics and to what is happening right here in our own parliament. Ask questions. It is our very democracy that is at stake. Anita van den Belt is the MP for Ottawa West Nepean. When we say they're not all the same, they're not all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Look at her record
Yeah.
of work before she got into this. Look at how she writes. Look at how she expressed her concern. Look how she is able to, even if it's a few days later, sit back once everything sort of has some time to marinate.
Marinate on that one.
And realize, yeah, I could have done better on that. And for my part in it, I am sorry. Not sorry if you were offended. I am sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That specific line. What is it? Again. Anyway, sorry, I was looking for it, the specific line that she said. That because I want to bring attention to it again, because this is rare in politics. In my focus on trying to save our committee from the same dysfunction and partisanship that has plagued other committees, I played a role in adding to their trauma, and for that I am very sorry. Nothing that happened in that meeting should ever have happened.
So, I made a mistake. I'm terribly sorry. It was wrong. I apologize. Didn't even ask for forgiveness. Just apologized. That's how you do it.
It's how you do it. It's how you do it. So again, right? Tough on her at first, saying, this was done the wrong way. And it's like, and why would you just say I deeply regret and not apologize? Like, why did you refuse to take that extra step? Like, why? I will say that's weird.
Oh, yes.
In this case, that was weird. Normal people apologize. But often when you're a politician, you're an elected representative, and we see this a lot when we see committees. When
Yes.
people interact, it's like, no, we are legislators. We are honorable because we have to maintain the system and process and and the EQ disappears.
Mm-hmm.
I am doing this for democracy. How dare you? How dare you say I could have done something better? I spent all my life working to defend women. It's not about you, honey. It's about the victims. It's about the survivors. It's about the people who came to share their stories. That's the part. You're so focused on being right.
Well, and
you
here,
forget.
PNC bio, she didn't say she could have done better, but explain why it happened.
Yep. She didn't explicitly say she could have done better, but if you say nothing that happened in that meeting should ever have happened, and I played a role in adding to the trauma, it's implied.
And
you're
this
realizing
comment
that you could have done something better.
The comment here from Linda, that's the difference. You will never see the Reformicons admitting what they could do, that they could do better, because they believe that their way is the best and only way. And that is narcissism in a nutshell.
And that the ends justify the means.
Yeah.
They are on the righteous cause, so everything is allowed. Again, when I said on the show, now pay attention, because this is rare, I'm going to be admonishing a liberal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We threw the brickbat. We're given the credit when it is due.
Exactly.
And we would do that for any MP.
Any MP doesn't, again, your political stripe is irrelevant here. Your party affiliation does not matter. You do something wrong, we call you out. You do something good, we call you out. And
it's not like this, like, for example, Karen Vecchio, conservative.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like we sat there and says, oh, well, if we deal with this story, because we're going to have to, like, put it out there that there was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're all bad. We need to push the fact that they're all bad. It's like, no. Karen Vecchio was a good MP. Was a good conservative MP.
And I think
surrounded by bad people.
I think Karen Vecchio is an actual progressive conservative.
Yes.
Much like
surrounded by bad people.
Much like we often talk about how MRG, Michelle Rempel-Garner, is a progressive.
Yeah.
And then goes and shoots herself in the foot like she did the other day.
Yeah. Yep. Precisely.
One step forward, two steps back.
Right. Look, but that's when you realize the other concerns, right? Politicians are people too. She wants to keep her job.
Well, I get, and there's nuance.
She's doing what she needs to do to keep her. She's doing what she feels she needs to do to keep her job. But then you sit there and it goes like, if that's what it costs you to keep your job, maybe you should.
You sold your soul, man. Yeah, like I'd love to have her on the show. I really would, because both you and I have talked about how she is an actual progressive, but then she does something like that. I'm like, lady, what are you doing? You've completely lost the plot.
And the thing is that the bad you do doesn't cancel the good you do. The good you do doesn't cancel the bad you do.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of burn some bridges.
Yeah.
Like, trust is like a mirror, right? Once you break it, because you might be able to get some back, but every time you look at the mirror, you still see the crack.
Mm-hmm.
It's always there. Right? You can forgive, but you can't really completely forget because the crack is always there.
Yes. And it's not going away.
So with, yeah, that's the thing with Michelle Rempel-Garner, is that when she does so well for a while and then does something that's just so blatantly hyper-partisan for whatever reason. A reason that is not, the motivation is not putting the interests of the constituents first,
Exactly.
clearly, right? Because as good as a constituency MP as she might be, and I've never heard anything bad about her said by her constituents in terms of what she does for her riding,
Mhm.
right?
True.
What she does for her riding. As good as a constituency MP as she may be, it's when you want the job that badly, you may have convinced yourself that you're the only person who can do it. And it's like, the people don't necessarily, you might be very good at it, but the people don't necessarily need that it has to be you.
Mm-hmm.
So if the window is moving such that if you stay true to yourself, your party has left you, it's like, run as an independent, join another party that's now more aligned with you. Just
cross the floor
and trust that your constituents, like this, will follow you.
Yes,
because you're in principle. But don't sell out.
God, no, don't do that.
So don't dampen your light. Don't extinguish your sparkle. This the thing with we bring 338 people, right? Each has their own unique experience and individuality. Each, like, you have to bring all of you to the job. Like this, because that's all those little eccentricities and individualities and it's like, yes, you're a lawyer, but you happen to play the oboe. Yes, you're an economist, but you coach Little League. All these little things like this make you a real person, and you're representing real people.
And people want to be able to relate to you, and if you don't give them something they can relate to, they will walk away.
Yeah. Like, just so you can't go and build these relationships with the community and then burn them like Jason Kenney and the Conservative Party did with ethnic communities, and then they come up and they say, hey, let's have a special 911 just for Muslims. Like, you just burn it, because it's not only the Muslims that see that, it's people from other communities as well. Gee, if they sold them down the river pretty quickly, who are we next? And then you just can't build, and then there's only so many times you can do that. And then you can't build trust back again at all. It's just, man, it's the public's trust when you invest that much to get it. It's such a fragile thing. It's like you can't be careless with it. You can't be careless. It's better to be authentic, and take a little heat, and sometimes go against your party, than to just tell all the people that put their trust in you, send them a sign that you can't be trusted. It's always less drama at the end of the day to choose to do the right thing first. It's always less expensive too. All right. Do you have something, Mr. Grizzly?
I do, but we're gonna have to tap out soon. They've already started drilling upstairs, but I do have something here from Carl Two, Tous. You familiar with Carl Two?
I think so. Yes, Carl Two.
Advocate for fair democracies and human rights. Karltous. I'm going to show you this tweet from yesterday, and I think it's pretty interesting because, well, I'll just put it on and read it to you. So the first tweet was, if you've not seen David Zalewski's video here, he is making threats against Trudeau. Seems to be a couple of CPC hot button things he hits on as his reasoning. Carl Two says, on the same day the RCMP arrested this man for threatening Justin Trudeau's life, Pierre Poilievre attacks Justin Trudeau for not showing his exact schedule online.
Yeah.
Pierre Poilievre is evil and he's going to get somebody hurt or killed. No moral character whatsoever. And I simply can't argue with that. I got to do one of these and one of these because he's correct.
He's correct. And that's the thing, the Prime Minister, you'll notice that the Prime, I'm not sure if he's still on vacation or not. I'm guessing he's not, but he's doing this thing where he's just showing up at stuff. So I'm sure his trip to Alberta to go to the command center was a little coordinated with the province, but I don't think it was pre-announced in the press. his trip to Pride in Vancouver was not announced in press. He showed up at a big gathering of the Filipino community. It's like, oh my God, nobody knew you. Nobody told us you were coming. So I'm thinking that that's probably what they have to do now.
Mm-hmm.
Just start to show up, because if they put out an itinerary, then right?
Yeah.
It's almost like guerrilla politics now. It's like, I'm just going to show and drop in, spend a couple of minutes here like this, hey, like this, get the pictures, and, kind of meet with the community and go before other people have a chance to know that I'm here, and they can organize and make this event. Again, take the event away from the people that the event was for, take all the hard work that they put into it, and then just make it some terrible thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Out of selfishness. So,
yeah. I have one more item for you, and then we can wrap up. This is a video from Lisa. I don't know if you've seen this, but it addresses the Russian bot farm, or the bot farm, and the CPC, and how the CBC and Canadian press have picked up on this story. Now, Radio Canada was the first one to actually investigate it, which is the francophone wing of CBC. For those of you who are unaware.
The one that Pierre Poilievre says he can't dismantle.
Right.
Well, can't say he wants to dismantle, and now I'm sure he really wants to.
Oh, yeah. So check this out. This is from Lisa B. We got to get her on the show at some point in time. I'd love to chat with her.
Me too.
She's in Edmonton. Anyway, have a look at this. I think you'll enjoy this. I know I did.
Remember when there was a concern about Russian bot farms spreading tons of misinformation? Now, I took this from the Toronto Sun, so if they're reporting on bot farms, well, Now, officials say that these bot farms spread misinformation. They pose as American to support Russian government objectives. In light of the type of government that Russia has, we can only imagine their objectives. I mean, Putin seems to like the ultra-conservatives. The alt-wrongs, if you will. The Trumps. And then by default, Timbit Trump. Here. But then remember when Pierre Poilievre went to Kirkland Lake, had one of his infamous little rallies? I mean, there were dozens of people there. Which is pretty good, because Kirkland Lake only has a population of almost 8,000. It's not a very big place. So to get people turning out at a rally is quite an accomplishment. But then remember a few months ago, when that whole political interference thing came up, and there were rumors and reports that there were some people that were involved with that, but the federal government wouldn't release the names, and then Pierre Poilievre did this.
He indicates there are members of this House that have knowingly worked for foreign hostile governments. Canadians have a right to know who and what is the information. Who are they?
Even though Pierre knows bloody well that they can't release the names, and they wouldn't release the names, because there's a whole bunch of stuff involved. And then Dominic LeBlanc answered in a way that I appreciate.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Opposition knows very well that no government, including the government of which he was a member, is going to discuss particularities of intelligence information publicly, so he knows better than that. But the good news, Mr. Speaker, is if he wanted to get the appropriate security clearance and be able to see the confidential report of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, he would be much more informed than he is now, and we would invite him to do so he wouldn't stand up and cast aspersions on the floor of the House of Commons without any information whatsoever.
But Pierre doesn't have security clearance. And I mean, there was some discussion of the CPC having some involvement with China, India, to help the leadership race. But then remember in 2011, there was that whole robocall fiasco with the Conservative Party. They did some shady shit to dissuade people from voting. Called them up under the guise that they were Elections Canada and gave them wrong information on where to vote. All of this to say, there's always some suspicion. I mean, Pierre finally hit 1 million followers on Twitter. He was far under that for quite some time. Shocking considering what the polls say. But let's now get back to Kirkland Lake. Now, we know on social media that people want to support the leaders that they like. They take video of the rally, post pictures, the t-shirt, and they like to tell people where they've been and what they've seen. Well, Kirkland Lake was no exception, because Twitter was abuzz about this seemingly benign little town where a little rally occurred. Belle says she just got back from the rally, and it was refreshing to see a leader actually listening. Belle is from France. Belle joined Twitter in July of 2024. Belle doesn't have any followers. Faye also just got back from the rally and thought it was refreshing to see a leader actually listen. Faye's from England. Faye also joined Twitter July of 2024. Yesenia also enjoyed the rally. She also watched Pierre Poilievre in Kirkland Lake and thought it was refreshing to see a leader actually listen. A lot of people did. So many of the people, and you just randomly go to some of these people that all say the same thing. A lot of them joined Twitter in July or even August of 2024. And the vast majority of them do not live in Canada, much less the vicinity of Kirkland Lake. So Pierre recently hit 1 million on Twitter. So many people found him refreshing. Remember the warning about Russian bot farms spreading disinformation? Are we doing the math? Are we doing the math? Because when some MPs were asked about the bot farms, just like how they were asked about the interference, well, they did the same damn thing. They just ran the fuck away. Now, I'm not saying it's Pierre late at night at Stornoway or in his RV or inside a white trailer on the side of the highway pushing out these tweets. But I am saying, and it's quite obvious, that somebody in his little circle is facilitating this. Because cons love to con. It's certainly not the first time. They love manipulating things, information. What's funny is that it was absolutely unnecessary. And maybe that's why they did it for this rally. Maybe this was just the test. Although I'm sure it's happened before. Like with all the polls. Because I know I've never been polled. So we've got Russian bot farms, clearly showing support for ultra-conservatives. We've got Stephen Harper as the chair of the IDU, the sad little conservative gang, Pierre Poilievre's political big bro. We've got a history of conservatives fucking around with things. And now we have them finding out. But conservatives are denying that they're behind those bots. I'm sure they'll twist it that they're somehow a victim. A setup by the left, the NDP Liberal Coalition. But they're not. They're not victims. They haven't been set up. They fucked around and found out. Because maybe if you're going to use bots, don't use bots from Russia or England or anywhere else besides Canada in the vicinity of where you're having a rally. Because unlike 2011, more of us have our eyes on everything. So in summary, conservatives are fucking liars. They twist and manipulate things. They really aren't good at it if you pay attention. And for them to be doing it, they're actually pretty fucking scared. I'm just wondering where the money came from for these bots. Was it tax dollars? Donations given to the CPC? Oh, and just as an aside, every time he tells you to go and sign up, don't. You're giving them your email. God knows what they're doing with it. We can only guess. I just think it's funny that for all of them that call us paid liberal actors, it's really your woodlicker leader that's paying people. Ah, sweet irony. Keep being scared, Pierre. Keep being scared.
That's
Beautiful summation.
But it's true. It's like, why do you need to do this?
Mm-hmm. Well,
if
and
you
the thing
actually are winning?
that we say all the time, they're really bad at it.
Oh yeah,
like they're
terrible.
They're not good. They're trying to cheat, and they're terrible at it.
And
give it up, man.
And remember, right? This is not the first time. Like when they're saying that this, he cheats. Like he's got a lifetime compliance agreement with Elections Canada, which is another fancy. It's a fancy term for deferred prosecution agreement. You only sign those if you know this case is absolutely going to court, and they got me, and they did because they caught you on camera wearing the shirt that they told you not to wear, but you wanted to wear it anyway because it had the big logo on it. And then you got caught. And then the Conservative Party of Canada pleaded guilty in court to the In-N-Out scandal. Yeah. The way that they, skippy air quotes, won their first election. Because then they tried to defraud us out of the money until they were forced to give that back too.
Well,
and then you add the robocall thing. It's like, this party has cheating in its DNA, and his big brother was the original cheater. And this guy has a less of a moral compass than Harper does.
Well, and let's not forget Jeff, when he was in high school, said what is truly disgraceful is the current welfare state. Yeah, it's the funny thing. Pierre Poilievre has basically spent over 20 years on welfare. He has never worked, and the taxpayer has paid his wages. National disgrace. Now, let's qualify that statement, okay? Because yes, he does work. Yes, he puts in the long hours. So does his staff. He just does all the wrong things. And yes, he's been living on the taxpayer for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
That is not up for debate. That is fact. And when he says he can identify with the common people and the working man and the working class, I'm like, how could you possibly do that? You've never done anything but this. I think he had a paper route before this. Contrast that, and they go, well, the Laurentian elite, that is Pierre Trudeau or Justin Trudeau. I'm like, hey, yes, born with a silver spoon in his mouth. We don't question that. We know that. His father was the prime minister. His father came from money. But here's the thing. He worked as a bouncer, a snowboard instructor. He taught math, literature, and drama for one semester of drama. So stop calling him a drama teacher. He was a math teacher. He's actually worked like a common person. He knows what it's like to be in the trenches. Sure, he had a giant golden parachute waiting for him, his inheritance. That was never up for debate. But he has actually worked and lived in the real world.
In jobs that deal with the public.
Bouncer, snowboard instructor, teacher,
parent-teacher meetings, the actor on set.
He understands what it's like. He understands more what it's like than Pierre Poilievre ever will.
Pierre Poilievre never left the university debating club.
No.
He just didn't. Boy. All right. Here's the image I wanted to show you, Mr. Grizzly. What's going on right now in England?
Oh, yes. Anti-racists. Racists. Yeah, that was the one I put up yesterday, I think. Yeah. Same sort of thing.
So these people right here are the ones, the loudmouths that I call them. The weird loudmouths that say all this crazy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And say, everyone agrees with this. This is the rest of us saying, no, we fucking don't. There are way more of us than there are of them. It is time, people, to stand up. Democracy is something that you do. You gotta put your body in the game. They have the megaphone. We have the numbers. It's time to start using our advantage.
2024 is the year of the pushback. Keep pushing back.
They gotta use these butts because they need to manufacture friends because they know they don't have any. When you've got no friends, you hire bots.
Mm-hmm. Got one more quick thing for you from Tavi G sent me earlier. I'm going to show you this real quick. It's the Michael Dieter latest political cartoon, and then we can wind it up for today. This one is really good.
Oh, jeez.
For those listening to the audio-only version, it is two gentlemen or ladies, I don't know, in hazmat suits with orange spray paint, spray painting Donald Trump with the bandage on his ear and a tie that hangs to the floor. And Trump says, Kamala needs to figure out what color she is. Thank you, Tavi, for sending that to me. I appreciate it. That's a good one.
Damn. Jeez. Just to give you a little note also about what's going on in the UK, because difference between how things were handled here and things were handled there. They were bracing for another evening of violent protests by anti-immigrant groups. The groups had issued calls to target more than 100 locations in multiple towns and cities. So police were called up. Shops had shuttered. People were closing their businesses. They were afraid. A local mosque canceled its evening program. The local immigration center was listed as a target, that type of stuff.
Oh, and by the way, that local immigration center, I heard a story about that.
Okay.
So the individual who is responsible for immigration in that town uses his mother's home address as the address for the immigration center.
Oh.
People were literally targeting his mother's home, and she's in her 80s.
Jeez. So there's been violence, smashed windows, cars set on fire, mass destructions. People tried to set buildings where asylum seekers were living on fire. Police have already arrested more than 400 people, and there have already been sentencings.
Wow.
Already, yes. 3 men were put in prison. One was given 3 years for violent disorder, including punching police officer. In the States, like they're getting like 12 months. 3 years for punching police officer. Jonathan Egan, a senior district crown prosecutor, spoke outside the court in Liverpool. Quote, 3 men were sentenced today are the tip of the iceberg and just the start of what will be a very painful process for many who foolishly chose to involve themselves in violent unrest. Egan says hundreds of crown prosecutors across the country are working flat out to ensure the wheels of justice move swiftly. Normally we say that the wheels of justice move infinitely slow but grind infinitely fine, but swiftly. Buckingham Palace says King Charles is being kept updated about the disorder on a daily basis. Thousands of specially trained police officers were deployed across the country in anticipation of what might happen. But, quote, the situation does vary across the country, but so far tonight, the counter-protesters or anti-racism protesters are far outnumbering the far-right anti-immigrant groups that have been causing so much havoc across the UK over the past week or so. So thousands of counter-protesters have been chanting things such as refugees are welcome here and hate you're not welcome here. So it could still change as the evening goes on, but this may be the first sign that the swift and harsh response from the law enforcement in recent days may be starting to work. Don't let it brew for 4 weeks. You see the shit start happening and just like, cut it off. They're gonna whine and complain anyway. So just cut it off at the knees. Keir Starmer used to work in law, works in politics, used to deal with this kind of stuff. Seems to know what to do. All right, Mr. Grizzly. Do we have a show?
We do indeed, sir.
All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember that sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the mouths from which we want the word to come. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. Now, if you'd like to make sure that you do not miss an episode, you do not have to, thanks to the fly and fabulous, fun and flirty Ray Girl. If you scan the QR code that will bring you to our pod page, which she has generously sponsored yet again for another year. Thank you so very much. Podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver. Lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And that will bring you there. You click subscribe. We have something fresh off the bandwidth. It comes directly to you. You don't even have to go searching for it. We deliver. Like pizza.
No, we don't deliver pizza.
No, I said like pizza.
Oh, like pizza.
Yes. Pizza's always pretty good. Hopefully you think our show is too. Now, if you'd like to help us in other ways, then you surf on down to our YouTube page and make like Elaine. Well, you will have a Beaver Verified day and smash all those buttons. Like, share, subscribe. Hey, you can space them out over the course of the day if you want to make the fun last. But we have 3 buttons for you. So if you click them, that makes us very happy. And over 5,000 of you have on the subscribe one. So thank you. Much appreciated. And if you would like to help us in another way, Mr. Grizzly just says, I've got a juicy Easter egg. We have a little private chat for production stuff that we can chat on. And I can't wait. I can't wait to see what it is. If you would like to support us in other ways, the QR code that's by Mr. Grizzly's head brings you to our coffee page. That's ko-fi.com/ coffee, ko-fi.com/ eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And there, if you happen to have a little bit of loose change and you would like to buy us a coffee, for example, to thank you for producing a good show, then we would very gladly accept. And of course, you will have our gratitude. So if you make a little donation there, of course, during the shows, we also take a moment to thank those who have made a donation to recognize you. So we appreciate everything that you can do. You were going to say something, Mr. Grizzly?
No.
No? Okay, I thought you wanted to get in there for a second. So yes, please do that if you are able to. What else do I have here? Yes, because democracy is something that you do. Use your voice.
Please use your voice.
Find a way to use your voice.
Push back. Remember, 2024 is the year of the pushback. 2024 is the year when we tell the bad people who behave badly and do so to harm others who cannot fight back that we are not tolerating this anymore. We will not tolerate their intolerance. Push back.
Yep. They want us to feel that we are overwhelmed, and they want to be loud so that we are quiet. We fold in on ourselves and we retreat from the public square and we leave them all the room. That's what they want.
Don't do it.
They want us to be docile.
Don't give in.
Don't give in.
Don't give in. Don't give up.
Sometimes it gets a little much and you need to check out for a couple of days. That's
I get
fine.
that. I did it
Take a rest.
yesterday.
Do that. That's fine. That's good. That's self-care. That is healthy. But do not leave the fight. Do
Nope.
not abandon the public square. That's how they win. Right? From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Iggy Beaver saying it can be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us today? Please have some words of wisdom for us today.
Yeah. Well, in times like this, when, as you know, yesterday so Monday I had planned to do an ASMR and I couldn't do it Monday evening. And then I was going to do it Tuesday and it was like, this is not working out well. Obviously, because I couldn't do a show yesterday. Yesterday I was a mess. What I'm trying to say is when the world becomes too much for you, it's okay to unplug, unwind, relax, and take care of yourself. And remember, there are people you can reach out to. There are people who will listen. I know it's difficult to talk about things like that while you're going through them because I find it darn near impossible to do so. Which is why I have the ASMR channel, mental health channel, because there are times when I can't talk about it, but I can go on the channel and talk about what I'm feeling. I can't talk to somebody, but there's something very therapeutic about speaking to the camera, getting it out and verbalizing what I'm feeling. That helps me to feel better by the end of each one of those shows. So if you're suffering, please take the time you need to heal and reach out. I'm here. And that's it for today.
All right, kids and cubs. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
Okay, you're going to like this.
Yay!
This comes as no surprise, but it's finally past sins are catching up with Pat King. Freedom Convoy's Pat King banned from festival he promoted. He urged followers to buy tickets for the event, but organizers say he won't be welcome on site. King has been urging his 336,000 online followers to buy tickets for the Rock the Track Music Festival, which features Nazareth, the Headstones, Biff Naked, the Northern Pikes, and other acts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you. Don't forget, August 8th, 9th, and 10th, we are putting on Rock the Track 2024. He announced in June during a live statement. Give it a shot, guys. Really want to see everybody out there. It's going to be a great cause. But organizers of the three-day event in Rimbey, Alberta, which kicks off today, say King will not be permitted on site. It appears Pat knows somebody that is in our volunteer group and was planning to volunteer himself. Promoter Corey Yuchtman wrote in an email to CBC News on behalf of Rock the Track. He was using his connection to promote the event and give the impression that he was more involved than just a volunteer. It seems he was using this to increase his popularity, potentially. I don't know for sure. He promoted the event during his trial. He's currently jailed in Ottawa for violating his bail conditions while awaiting judgment in a recent criminal trial that ended in July. The Red Deer, Alberta man, who turned 47 last Friday, pleaded not guilty to mischief, intimidation, and other charges related to what became known as the Freedom Convoy in early 2022, when thousands of individuals took their vehicles into downtown Ottawa and protested for nearly a month against government vaccine mandates. King was unable to afford his legal defense after being abandoned by the broader anti-mandate movement, which is now backed by Libertarian and other groups. King was granted permission by the Ontario court to raise funds online to pay his lawyer. In his videos and posts, King never explicitly states the Rock the Track event was meant to raise money for him, but he often cited fundraisers of his own while discussing the Rimbey event, used "we" to describe the event and thank people for their support. And here's a tweet from him. Ladies and gentlemen, as you might have caught wind of, I'm presently in Ottawa looking forward to my bail hearing on Friday, August 9th. I was made aware of all birthday wishes yesterday, the online support, and who has stuck by me during this ordeal, and I want to thank you for that. Also, we've been getting inquiries about the upcoming Rock the Track 2024 event in Rimbey, Alberta next week. The entire team is diligently preparing to deliver an unforgettable experience for the participants. Regrettably, I won't be able to make it due to these circumstances, but rest assured, the event will proceed as planned. I ask that you enjoy the event on my behalf, adding videos and photos for me so I can vicariously enjoy the moment through your eyes when I can. The link is in my Facebook bio for anyone looking to purchase last-minute tickets. The forecast is looking good. Until next time, stay strong, Canada. Admin on behalf of Pat King. So I wonder how Biff Naked feels about that. I'll put
I
a
have a
link.
feeling we might find out.
I have a link in the chat I'll post the link to that story for anybody who wants to read it further. But something tells me Biff Naked would not be happy about this because Biff has performed at Pride here in Ottawa a number of times.
Yes, she's not one to hold her tongue either.
No. So I am looking forward to Biff Naked's comments on
I'm
this.
hoping she says something.
Oh, yeah.
Because she might not. She might just say, you know what, let's just...
Who knows? Who knows?
Let the drama truck go by.
If you're a fan of Biff Naked, if you like her music, you know who she is and who her politics are, what her politics are. You know who she is. So if you're going to see her perform live in concert, you obviously understand her. So this could be interesting, what may take place. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't. I hope she eviscerates him.
Ah, shit, you messed with the wrong woman, Pat. Yee, boy. Before we go, bronze medal for Canada at the Olympics, Alicia Newman in the pole vault, someone who had had a career plagued with injury and whatnot, and she stuck with it, and finally she gets the reward, breaking a Canadian record along the way. And for those who are wondering, just how big the buzz is from Tim Walz being named the vice presidential running mate. The campaign raised $36 million in the 24 hours after the announcement. That's on top of the $300 million Kamala Harris has raised in July. Something's happening. Something's happening. All right. Kids and Cubs, have a terrific day.
I'll see you.